I hope the view you have behind me lets you see how beautiful this day is. The trees are just particularly lovely today for whatever reason. The only fault I'd find with this day is it's a little on the warm side. But hopefully I'll get done blabbing before I get hot enough to start sweating and things will be better. I was thinking today, waiting is not easy. If we're not careful, we want to push things ahead because we don't want to wait. Or we're fearful maybe about what might happen if we don't. And we have all kinds of sayings in our language, like strike while the iron's hot, or a stitch in time saves 9. But sometimes the 9 are better. I had a woman in my first parish who had several children, and she said she really got tired at about the 8th month of those pregnancies because she was ready to get on with it. She knew what was going to go, and so let's just get this child out and be done with it. She said she'd get exasperated and she'd go on a long walk, and almost every time by the end of the long walk the water would break and off she'd go. And she thought that was just fine. Let's speed this thing up. Or my sister confessed, I think she was probably 30. She finally told me that one year she absolutely could not stand to wait to find out what she was going to get for Christmas, and she knew where my mother had stashed everything. So she went in and she got her own presents. Now I suspect she probably opened everybody else's too, but she didn't confess that part. That she opened all her presents to see what she was going to get, and then of course she had to rewrap them. Now she must have done a pretty good job because nobody that I'm aware of noticed. But of course she finally had to come clean. Her sinful heart got the best of her. What's my point? The Thessalonians thought Jesus was coming back right away, and they were starting to get a little antsy. 2 Thessalonians, more than 1 Thessalonians, tells the story how St. Paul has to calm them down because they're starting to do crazy things like quitting their jobs or giving away all their stuff because they think, the boat to paradise is coming tomorrow, and so why do I have to work today? Well, we don't know the day or the hour. That's one of the great frustrations of life, and just simply not being able to understand each other accompanies it closely. What I say is not necessarily what you hear. That's the basis of a whole lot of misunderstanding. Well, that's not what I meant. Well, you said, yeah, but no, wait, listen, now listen. And there we go. In the gospel, it's similar. Jesus is telling the story about stay awake and stay alert, for you know not when the time will come. I had a young man came to me my first assignment in the cathedral wanting to get married. But he said he was really struggling with having the wedding in church because even though he was a Catholic and the family was Catholic and blah, 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 he was angry with God because he loved his grandmother and his grandmother had had a rather ugly death. And I said, well, that's fine. I can see why you'd be angry, and I think it's perfectly legitimate to be angry with God. What that mostly means is we just don't understand. But I said, tell me about your fiance. Well, his whole demeanor changed. Oh, he said, from the first time he had seen her, he was just smitten. She was so beautiful, so loving, so charming, so this, so that, so the other. And I said, well, doesn't it seem fair that if you're going to blame the Lord for your grandmother's ugly death, you got to give him credit for the girl? Well, he thought about that for a minute. Now, I suspect he'd have gotten to that on his own, but I just pushed him a little faster. Or, one time, I was looking to bring some sisters from Mexico to work in my parish in Cedartown. I had met them at an event in San Antonio, Texas, and they seemed like they would be a great help. I had a parish that was overwhelmingly Mexican, and I needed the help. So I asked their Mother Superior in Mexico if she could let me have them for the summer. Well, she writes me back a letter that was really kind of terse, and if you know much about Mexicans, they're not normally that direct. They're a little more, circumspect, the word. But they said that the Mother Superior said she didn't see any value in their coming from such a short length of time, so she'd have to say no. Well, I just sort of lost that letter in a pile on my desk, but I came across it about a month later, and I looked at it and realized, because if you've dealt much with Mexicans, you know that they're just seldom direct. It's not their culture. But there's clues. And I realized what she was saying was she didn't see any value in their coming for a short period of time, but she was more than willing to send them permanently. Well, how about that? I followed up with her, and sure enough, that was the case. Those poor Thessalonians, waiting, Jesus coming right now. Wait. Everything has its time.